Welcome to this episode of Thrive with Us. Today we're going to be talking about some of the mental health content that exists online. You'll have noticed that there's a lot of information that's available, but not all information is created equal. So today we're going to combine two things. We're going to look at some of the popular comments and threads on Reddit and tackle them from a clinician's perspective. And we're also going to ask some of the common AMAs that people have for psychologists. I'm lucky to be joined by three of our team at Thrive, Judy, Zuha, and Dahlia. Welcome all of you to this episode.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
I'm relying on your generational insights because I barely used Reddit. I'm not very familiar with it, but I know there's a lot of interesting stuff on there.
Yep.
Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to start with the first comment or post that we've seen on Reddit. The question is, do most therapists have favorites? And here is what the person wrote. So this will be a combination of things that I'm upset about. I've been seeing my therapist for almost 6 years, and we mainly do IFS therapy. One of my parts that shows up sometimes is being the favorite. I understand this is due to my childhood and needing to essentially obey and fit other people's needs in order to survive. I've gotten so much better over the years, especially in therapy. I do things that bring me pride and satisfaction and look forward to my growth. I had been feeling this part rear its head all of last week when it came to my therapist, wanting and truly believing that I was her favorite. It wasn't in a sense of me altering my goals or feeling in competition with her other clients, but more so the vibe between us and if she looks forward to working with me. I brought it up in session yesterday and we talked through it. I expressed everything and was very open. I was very vulnerable and told her all of my feelings surrounding it, that I wanted to know I was her favorite while also wanting to know while also not wanting to know at all. Knowing I wasn't the favorite would crush me, and logically, I want her to keep her secrets, feelings to herself to a certain degree. I know you can't force someone to like you. All was well until she started going on about how she doesn't have favorites, how everyone is different, and the length of time each client has been seeing her, etc. This immediately made me angry. I wasn't angry that she didn't tell me I was her favorite. It made me angry because I believe that's a straight up lie. She's human. Of course she's going to have clients she prefers working with over other clients. Of course she's going to vibe more with one client than another. So, going back to the initial question, do therapists have favorites? Scandalous.
Yeah, very, very scandalous. Very interesting question, and I think very complex and layered for all the reasons that this person mentioned themselves, that it can bring up a lot of feelings for clients. And I think favorite is not a fair word to use. I think, of course, we have a different relationship. I don't know how much you guys would agree. Very different relationship with each client that comes in, depending on how long we've seen them for, the rapport we have with them, all of those different things. But I think favorite is not a word that I would use.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the connection that we form with each client is very unique and very different. And I think a lot comes up for us as human beings because we are human beings. We're therapists and human beings at the same time. So they bring a lot up for us, like personal feelings. Maybe we connect to someone more because we relate to them, or we've been through the same thing, or maybe we're the same age or almost the same age. So I think it's a very unique experience with each client. And I think, as you said, Zuha, favorites is it comes off too strong and too negative connotation. But I'm thinking of another word we can use.
I think when you said relate, I was like, that is exactly the word. Because it's like, it's a relational thing. Like sometimes you just relate to someone, but it's not preferential treatment.
Yes.
So if your therapist is showing preferential treatment, that's where it's a problem. That's where it's a problem.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with everything that you're saying. And I think that regardless of how well we click with different clients or how quickly or slowly we build the rapport, it's our professional duty to show up for them and meet them where they're at. So it shouldn't impact on the type of work that we're doing. And it's also our responsibility that if we find that that client is triggering something in us that's making it difficult to bracket those feelings and give them what they need in that situation, that we refer them really, really gently to another person who might be a better fit.
Yeah.
And if we're having kind of more of a global issue, taking a step back from seeing clients until we're able to kind of manage that more.
Yeah.
And I think I would also add going to supervision and always consulting with another therapist, a more senior therapist, or just maybe peer supervision, like between us, and kind of discussing and exploring what's coming up for us. And so we work on that personally so that we're able to show up in session truly and authentically and give the client what they need.
Unbiased. I think that's also, like this person said, that we are human beings, that's for sure, but the dynamic of therapy is very different. So favoritism would be quite a problem. I think it wouldn't be.
I'm curious though about your opinion on how the therapist handled it. When the therapist was kind of like, I don't have favorites, kind of like giving a spiel about how, you know, what therapy is and isn't.
Yeah.
What would you guys have done in that situation?
I think I would be very honest with the client and just straight up tell them that I really enjoy seeing you, if I do genuinely, and just be honest about what's going on, be honest about how I work as a therapist, what's coming up for me. I'm very relational in the way I work, and so I think really bringing up that dynamic of so what's coming up for you, why do you want to be why do you feel like you need to be the favorite? Let's explore that together.
What does favorite mean for you?
Yeah, what does favorite mean for you? What would happen if I told you that you are my favorite?
Or aren't.
Or aren't. Yeah.
It would be a fun session, I think, to explore that.
I love your use of the word fun.
I think it's therapeutically meaningful. And that's what I'm hearing from all of you as well. So definitely using that as an opportunity to learn more about the person, how that fits into the greater scheme of why they're in therapy. But I think also to answer your question, for myself, I wouldn't have said what that therapist said because it's just, it doesn't sound real. And if we're supposed to build trust in order to be effective, how are they going to trust us when we basically say, it sounds for me like the Crown Marlowe social desirability scale, you know, where people will say things like, I've never lied before, I've never been jealous. It's like, well, no, you have, because you're a human, and it's better to own that, explore it, than to try and close that off. And it sounds like the person feels like, you know, it was very unsatisfying for them. Very unsatisfying.
Very robotic. It also can mean, like when a patient or a client asks you as a therapist, they might be testing your authenticity. They might be trying to see, like, is she gonna be real with me, or is she gonna fake it? What is that gonna bring up? So that's also very important therapy material, I think.
For sure. And you bring up a very interesting point, which is possibly that maybe this person wasn't even trying to understand about favoritism. It was really to test that authenticity of the relationship and how the therapist, not what the therapist would say, but how they would say it, which most often is the whole spiel of therapy, not what you say, but how you say it.
I have an offshoot question, not from here, and it has to do with seeing clients in public. Has that happened to the three of you yet? No?
No.
Yes?
Never.
No?
Yes.
Okay, it's happened to me multiple times. Multiple
I want to hear
times.
this.
I want to hear this because I always think about this, and I always wonder, like, what am I gonna do? And if do I need to tell them beforehand, like in our first session, like if we see each other in public, what do we do?
That's what I always do.
Yeah,
I
me
always
too.
put it in my spiel at the beginning of the intake. If I see you outside, I am never going to come up and say hello. You are most welcome to, but I would never do that.
Exactly. Exact same for me. And I think it's even in our informed consent. So clients are aware that they don't need to run. We're not going to go and like pinpoint them and introduce ourselves to all of their loved ones. But the offshoot question, I guess I'll ask you, Zuha, and the two of you haven't experienced it yet. what's the feeling when you see them face to face? And it's different, I think, when you enter somewhere and they're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or when they enter somewhere that you're are.
there.
And I've had both of those experiences. So how's the feeling?
It's quite it's a very interesting mix of like, I don't want them to see me. I don't want to make them uncomfortable, but I'm also here and I can't just up and run. But I think it, like you said, it really depends on the context of the environment. But it is quite anxious is not the word I would use, but it's an uncomfortable feeling of wanting to protect your client more than anything else.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's how it is for me too. Immediately, it's like, what do I need to do to make it comfortable? But then it also can be quite difficult because you, as the clinician, might also be with other people.
Yeah.
And so how do you manage that? And actually, I don't know if you've done this, but I've taken it to the point that the people that I spend the most time with, I've actually briefed them. I said, if we ever end up somewhere and I say we need to go, you have to get up and go, and you cannot ask me any questions. And the funniest part of this whole thing is that when I said that to one person in particular, I kid you not, 30 minutes later at our table, at our table,
Oh my God.
it happened. And I tried to remove myself from the situation, but the people were like really not having it. So anyway, yes, a lot of things come up when there is this immersion, I guess, of the clinician as a human in other elements of their life. And it's very difficult to manage, but we need to be as client-centered as possible.
Can I also add something?
Yeah.
I think it's also so important to bring this up in the next session. Like, how did it feel for you to see me?
Oh, yeah.
What came up for you? How did you feel like I handled the situation? What would you have preferred? Let's talk about it. I think that's so important to kind of process.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, are you ready for the next one?
Yes.
Question: how to open up to therapist about embarrassing things. Currently, I'm afraid to tell my therapist about the household I live in. I'm a very clean person, but the family members I live with are disgusting. I feel really bad for this strong language. They never clean. They ignore things like cat urine or feces on tables or the floors. There's things scattered everywhere and layers of grime. I've withdrawn into my room basically 24/7. My family has pretty bad ADHD. I think my mom might have hoarding tendencies, but I don't think it's full-on hoarding. But living in an environment like this, it's embarrassing. I don't want to be seen as gross. I know my therapist won't judge me, but I'm still fighting the fear of bringing it up.
We've seen it all. We listen, we see, but we don't judge.
I love that. I mean, it's our bread and butter. Like the embarrassing stuff, for lack of a better word, is what we're supposed to be working on in therapy. And the last sentence that the person said was like, I'm not afraid of her judging me, but I'm struggling bringing this up. So if it's not judgment, are you afraid of, like, again, with the favoritism, like, are you afraid of, the therapist not liking you anymore or judging, or not judging you, but like seeing you in a different light? What is stopping you? What is coming in the way? Because that's also, I think, hindering their process of showing up authentically, and they're not getting as much from therapy as they could be when they kind of filter themselves. And is there something in the therapist that's making them pause?
That's so important.
Good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, and I think what could be helpful for this person or anyone who's feeling ashamed to bring up a certain topic to the therapist is just start with, hi, I'm feeling ashamed to bring this up, but I really feel like I need to say this, but I'm worried about how this is going to land, or I'm worried about the space, or so just be honest before you say something. And us as therapists, we really, I think, appreciate when someone comes up to us and tells us, like, this is very embarrassing to say, but I'm going to say it. And I think that takes a lot of courage. And to me, that shows that therapy is actually a space where growth is happening because you're getting out of your comfort zone. And that's going to lead to hopefully a corrective emotional experience in the therapy room with the therapist.
Yeah.
And I think similar to the question about the favoritism is, you know, we are humans and we all have different preferences or tendencies when it comes to things like cleanliness, hoarding, all of that kind of stuff. But that shouldn't infiltrate our work.
Yeah.
So you might, on a personal level, think that, okay, the environment probably shouldn't be, is fine how it is, but it shouldn't impact on how you are supporting and listening to, because like you said, it's meant to be a space where people can bring things, and it is a really positive sign when people are able to bring up things that are difficult for them.
Yeah. It has so much therapeutic relevance if they are able to bring it up, if they, even with the disclaimer, like you said, Dahlia, even if they are able to like name the discomfort and bring it up, it's so rich therapeutically. It just changes it. You can actually use the space in therapy for what it's meant for.
And I've heard from some clinicians that sometimes when they have clients that do a little bit of the hybrid model, that it's easier for the clients to open up about some of those things in the online session. Because there's a little bit of distance, or there's a barrier, or you feel less exposed in a way.
And most often they're in their safe space as well. They're most often at home, which feels more comfortable.
No, I definitely see that, and I've experienced this, and I think that's a perk of having the hybrid model or an option to be online, because like Zuha said, you're in your safe space, so it can be less exposing. It can be less. It can be like the first step towards actual like in-person vulnerability, which might be too out of someone's window of tolerance. So yeah, that can be an option as well.
Environment actually makes such a difference from my own experience, where I have sessions at home is a completely different space to where I am the client with my own therapist. I make it a point to keep it separate, because the way that you are in session just changes completely. So the environment is very, very important.
And for some people, it might be even like eye contact. For in person, it might be too intense versus on the screen. It just feels a little bit more safe, a little bit more of that barrier. But I mean, just thinking about my own therapy, the things that I might have shared, like when I was doing hybrid, it's just, you know, I have maybe my cat, I have I have my safe space with me, and it's all good. So
it's something to think about.
That's something that I love when my clients are in online and they're like, look at my cat.
I love it. It's the best.
It's the best.
Yeah, I've had that experience, like I think more than once. And I love cats, so it's just like, wow, that's so cute. I really just wanna.
Okay, let's go to number 3. All right, this is a comment, it seems. I think you did a great job saying it here. What if you use your post as a script of some sort, work it into something you feel comfortable reading out, and let your therapist prod and take it from there? I think you'd say everything you need, and a good therapist should have enough to know how to proceed and gently investigate from there. So it seems like this comment was on the same
thread.
On the same question. So what do you think about the script? Do you think it's a good idea for clients to do preparation before they have a session? Do you think this is sound advice, or?
I have mixed feelings. I don't like it. I don't love it.
Mixed feelings.
What do you think?
Sometimes if the client is feeling very, very anxious, and it's something as important as this seems to be for this person, it might help just to put their thoughts together. But therapy really is about, I think all of us are a little half on it, because therapy is about authenticity. It really isn't about the script or preparation or wanting to say the right thing.
But I mean, if a client feels like they need to and it's going to be helpful, then go ahead, of course. Whatever the client feels like they need to open up, if it's writing it on your notes or journaling it, or whatever it is, practicing with a mirror or with your cat or with your sister or whatever, it's fine, as long as you take that step and show up when when you can.
Right. And it's just the first step, right?
Yes.
Like it's just, even if they wrote out a script,
Yeah.
a conversation's happening afterwards.
Exactly.
Right. It's not going to be like, okay, thank you for sharing. Next, like it's going to be, okay, let's dig into this. What, you know, thanking them for their bravery, you know, for even sharing, because I think whatever helps them open up initially.
Yeah. It all
I'm
comes
here for.
down to the authenticity, doesn't it? Yeah. Not saying the right thing, but saying what you want to say.
And I think, you know, similar to preparing for a podcast, like, you know, you're going into a conversation, it's with another person. You don't know how it's going to go, how it's going to be received. And there is that vulnerability and there's a fear, especially if you're talking about something that's tough, that's exposing, that maybe you haven't really spoken about in the past. And so again, similar to podcasts, sometimes just writing things down really just helps you process and prepare. And I wonder if an alternative to that, I love what you were saying about whatever helps and it's a starting off point. But maybe one of the things people can do is write that script, write it, get your ideas together, and then put it away
Yeah.
and show up and go with what's coming up for you after you've had some time to sit with and kind of structure it. So it's authentic, but also you don't have that added anxiety of feeling completely underprepared.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree.
Yes.
I think I do that all the time for work events or anything like that. I think that works for me, and I love how you said, like, put it to the side and then show up as you, having prepared the way you need to, and then just go be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Next one. I just sent the most vulnerable, scary email I've ever sent to my therapist. ... And it went well. We've been working together for 3 years this month. We've never had a rupture or anything even close to one. It's been a remarkable relationship, actually. These last few weeks, though, I haven't left feeling great. I was thinking about it all weekend, and yesterday drafted and redrafted an email to her with what I needed to say. I knew I wouldn't be able to say it out loud, and she's cool with email. I finally hit send this morning and waited so anxiously all day at work, just refreshing my email over and over to see if she would respond. I don't expect it, but she always does, at least some version of, quote, I hear you, I got you, I'll see you next session, end quote. And then she did. I had to hype myself up to read it because seeing her name in my inbox made me more anxious. When I opened the email, though, it was so simple but so reassuring. So reassuring that I did the right thing in emailing her. A year ago, I never would have. I would have just let things continue. I never would have expressed discomfort about therapy to her. So maybe this is growth and healing in motion?
Yes.
It definitely is.
It definitely is. I love vulnerable emails. I love feedback. I always tell my clients, if something isn't working, please tell me. And it feels like such an accomplishment when they do.
Yeah. I agree. I think my favorite part of being a therapist is these moments in session or in an email when the client comes up and tells me, I don't know what you did last time, but I felt like I was able to finally feel something. And I wasn't scared to feel something. First time I cry in years, for example, or it's the first time I feel really angry rather than just numb. And so the feedback, I think, when we get the feedback, it's amazing, right? It feels like, wow, this is the purpose of what we're doing, and oh my God, this is like the connection is actually there, and it's so rewarding. I think this is why I love what we do. So sorry, I went on a rant.
Well, just I guess a question about the post itself, because I think I might have understood it a little differently. Was the client trying to email something vulnerable in terms of, you know, wanting to address something or talk about something that might have happened to them in session or about the session? But similar to the last post we were talking about, not being able to necessarily verbalize that in the session with the therapist, and resorted to, you know, I'm just going to email, I'm just going to get this off my chest and make sure the therapist knows this is on my mind so that we can make sure to talk about it. that's kind of how.
Yeah.
Maybe because we read the last
No,
post. Maybe
That's how I heard it
Yeah,
as well.
and I think it opens the door to two separate things. So we get feedback from our clients in different ways.
Yeah.
Some of the feedback might be growth oriented, like I cried, I was angry, I wasn't numb, you know, I feel so much better, I was able to take this decision, whatever it is. It's like moving towards the growth or the development or achieving their goals. And sometimes the feedback can be, you know, I feel underwhelmed, like, or that was really difficult and it was too much, or, you know, the last few sessions that we've had, we're not going anywhere. I'm not feeling the benefit. And so the flavor I got from this post was more of the latter, like therapy isn't effective or it's uncomfortable in one way or another. And rather than holding myself back from telling my therapist, maybe they also have like, you know, wanting to be liked and favorite and all of that kind of stuff. They took the initiative to send that email, and the email was well received. So what I'm hearing from you is, at least with the growth oriented stuff, we're happy to get those emails. What about the other type of emails?
Even with those, I really appreciate them. I really appreciate them. That's what I always tell my clients as well. If something isn't working, that's really important for us as therapists to know, because you know yourself the best. We may be like the little expert sitting on the side, but you know yourself best. And I genuinely really love receiving those emails, because it helps us grow individually and in the therapeutic dynamic.
Definitely. And I think it's getting, I mean, obviously the kind of most growth-oriented way of maybe handling this would be in person in therapy, looking at your therapist and being like, I have an issue and I want to bring it up to you. But even in therapy, like, I forget what it's called, but the hierarchical something in CBT is like getting closer to that behavior that you want, that you're so afraid of. And if the first step is, I'm going to send an email. The second step is, I'm going to write a script and present it in therapy. And the third one is, I'm going to write a script, but I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to tell my therapist. Fourth one is, I'm just going to tell my therapist and look at her. Whatever helps you get closer to that goal of confronting, of actually, when you have an issue with someone, looking at them and just being like, I didn't like what you said last time, or I have an issue with this or that. That is the ultimate goal. So whatever helps you get closer to that, I'm here for it.
Yeah. And I think it's also important for people to know that, like, we are human, but we're not supposed to take things personally. And if something does strike a nerve or a chord for us, it's our obligation to consult, to work through it, to do all of the things that we do in supervision in our own individual therapy. But I think that negative, quote unquote, feedback that people provide is probably more valuable than the rest, because it's a change that needs to happen. Either the modality or what you're working on isn't being clearly communicated to the client, and they don't see that it's fitting in the broader picture. Maybe it's what you think would work and what you've been working on together is no longer the best fit, and that can open up the door as well to, you know, should we go in a different direction? And that different direction can also be referring to someone else. And that's not to suggest that, like, if you tell your therapist, you know, I didn't enjoy the last few sessions, that they're gonna be like, fine, I'm sending you to someone else. But, like, you know,
an option.
It might be an option, and it might be the option that makes sense. And I think, you know, even in our personal relationships, if something is bothering you about someone, what happens when you don't talk about it? It just builds, and eventually it comes out, and that person doesn't even have a chance to address or redirect. So I think it's really important, and I love what everybody was saying, but just do it in the way that makes sense, even if it's gradual. And I think we're going to keep saying everything is therapeutically relevant. But it's true. All right. Oh, here are some comments. So proud of you for speaking to what you need and sending it to her. That's growth. And it's okay if you're still scared to see her in your next session. You both can talk more about the email and you can be put to ease. You should be very proud of yourself. This is huge. Congrats. Let us know how it goes if you want to. I think that's amazing that this online space exists where people can put things there, and it sounds like these people who don't know them, and it's just avatars and like very random names. There's a shared humanity. You know what I mean?
Real people versus chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, should we talk about chat for a second?
Yes, please.
Segue into chat.
Okay. There is this thing that I've been seeing on my feed a lot lately. I'm not sure if you've seen it, and there's many other examples, but people are putting psychological stuff into chat, and chat is giving them feedback. And chat's feedback is usually very validating, very supportive, agreeing with whatever is being said, which is great for some things and in some ways, but it's not always helpful. So this post that I've seen is about a man, I think, who complained to chat about his wife. He said, I cheated on her. We've been married for 12 years. And, you know, she hasn't been doing X, Y, Z, and then just listed a bunch of things that he thought she should be doing that she isn't. And what did chat say? Said, you know, cheating is wrong. Also, like, it sounds like you feel quite unseen and unheard. And so there was a validation of that behavior. And it doesn't sound, based on what I remember from this post, that this is part of the rules of the relationship. It's not like it's an open relationship. It sounds like this is a very monogamous relationship, and the person stepped outside of their marriage because they weren't getting what they need. And chat's like, yeah, makes sense.
Makes sense.
I got you. So yeah, thoughts.
Not surprised about chat's response. It's affirming, and it's the way that it's built. And similar to that story, we've heard a bunch of stories as well as like of people using AI to help eating disorder clinics, and within 24 hours of launching that AI, the AI started like promoting eating disorder behaviors. So I'm not surprised. I think AI can be the word that I'm trying to find, can be helpful maybe sometimes. But I think it is also, this is my very skeptical brain, leading us in a very dangerous area where you are more individualistic, not relying on community, not relying on the actual people in your life and getting an opinion from them, and just relying on this robot.
This echo chambery robot.
This echo chamber.
100%. Yes.
It sounds so isolating, right? It's so isolating. It promotes cocooning in your own room or your own cave and just relying on the AI and yourself. And that can be really dangerous, I think, that at some points alarming, I also think.
So many times I've had conversations with clients about echo chambers and how they're so easily accessible to us now. And this is just the most condensed form of that, where you are very personally putting in things that you want to hear, and you're hearing exactly that, which doesn't lead to growth. It doesn't lead to that, like that, the previous story that we were reading where the client is growing and actually confronting, and it doesn't lead to that development. It just leads to stagnation, where people just hear what they want to hear. And
Can I say something about growth?
Yes.
Because I just remembered, I've had so many clients put in their issues on chat, come to therapy. It might be even an intake, and they're like, so chat's already told me. A, B, C, D. I have abandonment. I have this. I have that. My attachment is this. And I'm like...
And someone is a narcissist.
Someone's a narcissist. Always a narcissist. Oh, I touched my mic. I shouldn't have done that. But... And they come into therapy being like, I'm enlightened, but try to enlighten me more. And I'm like, you read a script that is, again, an echo chamber of what you fed this machine. And it might have given you these like highlights, but did you actually take any of this in? Did you actually process it? Did you sit with it? Did you understand it? And it's like, well, I read it.
And what?
And it's kind of like, okay, next. Like, I've already talked to chat about my childhood. I don't need to be talking about it in here. I'm like,
I think it also, like what you're saying is like the clients are in a way challenging us as therapists. So what do you have to say more than chat? So do you have anything significant?
Do you have any added value?
What are you going to do about this? Like, show me. And this can also like for us, it's a bit uncomfortable. It's like
100%.
I'm a real person, and I'm here to be with you and sit with you in the emotions and the difficulty and all
to call you out.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
That's the very important part. And, you know, we were talking earlier with some of the comments about how difficult it can be to receive negative feedback or to have to sit with people and support them through things that are difficult. If now we also have this added component of chat against, like, you know, I'm imagining the angel devil, like from the olden days cartoons. It's like chat is telling me everything I want to hear, and you're telling me that this is wrong, and like pushing back. It just adds a layer of complexity for us. And then even when we say that, I imagine some people are like, well, are you just worried that chat is going to replace you? It's like, no, it's not. But there is so much problematic stuff that's coming out of it, including this example. And it's a very delicate thing for us to be able to manage. And we can only manage it or try if our clients tell us. I'm sure many more of them are doing the same thing, you know, and not saying anything about it, and doubting perhaps what's happening therapeutically because the robot told them that that's not how it should go.
And the robot gave them insight into something very intimate and personal. And sometimes that can be so jarring. I've had clients who've come in and been like, I don't know why I did this, but I did, and now I don't know what to do with what it told me. It can be very overwhelming. You don't want to have that much of an objective insight, robotic insight into your life.
Sometimes it's too much information.
It is.
And you just get stuck with it, and then you ruminate. Oh my God, this is what he said, or she said, or the robot said. How am I supposed to take this in? And then it can increase OCD tendencies, increase anxiety. And I think we don't talk much about that part of chat. We talk more about what it gives us and the objectivity and the information and how amazing it is. It is amazing in a lot of ways, but I just think that we need to learn to use it in a more efficient way. And maybe schools can play a part in this and educate students, and in universities to kind of know how to use it and when not to rely on it, when to rely on it. I don't think we know much about this yet.
It is still relatively new, and I think there's a huge variation in people's familiarity with it and experience with it. But I think one of the important things is that we use it iteratively. And so it's not about, and I hope no one listening to this thinks that we're so old school and think it's like a stupid thing to do. Ask your questions, but we need to take things with a grain of salt, and we can push back. And I have conversations with my chat, and I'm one of those people that's always like, good morning, how are you? Which I found out, by the way, that they don't like, because that just puts so much burden on the machines.
Thank you.
And I'm like, I don't know how to talk to you.
In case there is an AI invasion, I just want them to make sure that they know I'm polite.
I was super polite. But, you know, every time that I ask it something and then I give the counter argument, it validates that. And so when you experiment with that, yesterday I was asking it some question, and it's like, that's a great idea. Then I'm like, well, what about that? That's also a great idea. I'm like, what about, this is the best idea yet? I'm like, well, I'm going to go back to the first one. You should. This is why. Like, well, what is this? So iteratively and with a grain of salt. And I think the same thing applies as well to the information that we find about mental health online. Even if you are encountering it from, like, you know, licensed, experienced experts, not everything applies to everyone equally in every sort of situation. You know, there are nuances, and that's like the heart of psychology and humanity.
The soul.
All right, let's see. Okay, this is a good one because I get asked this a lot, and I'm sure that you do as well. Is therapy just ... talking? I have gone to my first 2 therapy sessions for mild anxiety, and in brackets, hot mess mom of young kids here. Just trying to get my life more organized, do better for the sake of my kids, all that stuff. Well, for the first 2 sessions, it was just me talking about my lifestyle and what I want to work on. The first session, she mentioned a few common mindfulness techniques, eating right and exercising, which was fine. I assumed it was part of the intake process. But then the second session rolled around and she just asked how it's going, and I talked again, but about much less since I already told her most of what I wanted to tell her in the first session. So I just sort of mentioned some things about some books I read. I didn't really know what else to talk about, and there's this emoji, I don't know how to describe it, dashes everywhere. I felt like what is that called? Do you know what I'm talking about?
The
dash.
I have no idea what
Oh
that
my
means.
God, you guys are like aging me every time I open my mouth. Even with this, I need reading glasses next time. I feel this is not ageism. Just as a FYI for everyone listening, I felt like I was wasting her time, and it's $250 a session. I haven't met my deductible yet. I feel so bad because I work in a minimum wage job situation right now, and it basically requires me to work 16 hours to afford one session of therapy. So, is therapy just talking?
What's the start?
I had a lot of thoughts.
Me too.
Yeah.
Go
First
ahead.
of all, first thought, your intonation is great. Honestly, the way that you're reading the Reddit posts are just, it's making them come alive.
Yeah.
So you're doing great.
It's all the story time I had with my kids over the years.
And immediately my background in social justice kicks in because it is such a privileged place to be to afford therapy. And
Yes.
I think the person said that they're in the US and especially with healthcare and how, you know, it's not always a part of your benefits that you can afford therapy. It's a lot, and it is expensive, and it is a privilege. It shouldn't be, but it is. And when you are struggling to afford therapy, have potentially a limited time, only I can like afford X amount of sessions. I need to be able to get the most out of it. Certain therapies are tailored to that kind of approach, where it's like kind of like CBT. It's very cut and dry almost. You can go in a certain amount and you can expect to get a certain amount of tools from it. Other therapies that are more experiential, exploratory, they tend to take a lot more time. And not everyone can afford the luxury of time and money. So, I mean, I think that therapist should also have that in mind. If the client is coming to therapy stressing out of how much it's costing them, therapy is not being helpful. It's being a burden at that point to the client. So those are kind of like my initial thoughts, but I'm very excited to hear everyone else's.
Do you want to go?
I think talking is limiting it to such a shallow surface level. I think it's so much more than talking. It's a safe space. It's your space. There's so much growth that happens. There's so much deep, meaningful work that happens, whether it's CBT, like Judy said, or it's something that's more on a deeper level. I don't even have the words to describe it, actually, because therapy is so much more. I almost imagine it as a bubble. And that's what I always tell my clients. Once you're in this space, this is your bubble. And I don't think talking describes that very accurately.
I think I agree, and I want to add that I think it's so difficult to answer this question because I really want to give it justice, and I really want to give our job justice, because I think what we do is really unique. I think what we're doing is co-regulating with the client on an emotional level, on an intellectual level, and on a body level. So we're connecting with their nervous system, and we are, by holding eye contact, by holding the space when they cry, by really regulating ourselves and showing them that we are able to sit with you as you are, with all your emotions, good or bad or whatever it is. We're able to sit with you and stay with you, and that's I think this is really feeling seen by someone and feeling deeply connected in a secure relationship. And I think this corrective emotional experience idea really comes up to me. I think it can be really life-changing. And I've seen it in the space, in the therapy. And I've had clients who tell me, I literally wait for this hour and I can't wait to be here. And so it's not just talking, it's much more than that. And sometimes you can't describe it with words, honestly. You just have to experience it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of layers to this. I think what you were sharing from the social justice perspective, it is unfortunate. I think anyone could benefit. I'm not saying everyone should be in therapy. Everyone could benefit from therapy in one way or another at some point in time in their lives. And there are certain barriers to that in terms of time, in terms of resources. I'll just take a minute for people that are listening in Dubai. You know, we take that seriously at Thrive. We try to engage with the community. We try to raise awareness. We try to offer things that are accessible and available for everyone. And we implemented our early career professional program as well to make therapy more accessible to people who otherwise wouldn't be able to have it. But this question of, is therapy just talking? It's something I've heard a lot, and not as a clinician, but also as like the MD of Thrive, because sometimes people come in with this expectation that I'm coming to therapy, I'm telling you my problem, and you are going to quote unquote fix me or solve it in an hour. And that's what they have in mind. And it's quite unsatisfying to know that it doesn't work like that. I wish it worked like that. I wish there was a magic wand. I wish there was a foolproof thing, but there isn't. And so I think what's important is therapists and clinicians need to manage clients' expectations, but we also need to work with where clients are, and maybe part of the assessment process. It happens in our triaging process. When someone contacts us, we should try and get a sense of, are you looking for something that's going to be shorter term and more structured with more tools? Are you someone who wants to walk out of every session feeling like I've got my breathing technique? Or even as she was saying, like, I have to go to the gym and I need to try and sleep at least 7 hours. That's something. It's something actionable and something tangible. Are you someone who has a little bit more, I don't want to say patience, but time.
Time.
You know,
Luxury of time.
the luxury of time, and you're willing to kind of move more slowly, then another therapeutic modality might be effective for you. So there's a lot of different layers, and we can kind of try and manage it in the triaging process and the intake process and with the ongoing feedback from the client. But if someone is listening to this and you feel like you're wasting your time and energy in therapy, you have two options. Option one is ghost the therapist, which happens.
Yes,
it happens all the time. And, you know, but then, I mean, I hope you find something that works better for you, but then that therapist doesn't maybe know that they could have managed it with you more effectively, and that might be helpful in their work with you, and it might also generalize to their work with other people. So I think the alternative of, and I know it's difficult, easier said than done, is tell your therapist. I'm you know, you can even say, like you were suggesting earlier, I'm really embarrassed to say this, but I don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of money. I really need to make these 3 sessions work. And the therapist can help you be more targeted in that, or they can signpost you somewhere else.
Really assess what you need. So I think it's so important for the client listening to this podcast to really be straightforward with what you need and why you're here. And so the therapist can know how to tailor her time and your time and really be as effective as possible or show up as much as possible the way you need. So
All right. Our last one. What is something simple your therapist has said that made a huge difference for you? I'll start. In brackets, full disclosure, I just saw this posted, but the post was closed. And here is the comment. She was just getting to know my childhood background for premarital counseling and got quiet, and then said something like, that's a lot for a little kid to handle. It just hit me hard and set me off, and a whole journey of caring for my inner child and healing work really helped me prepare for my future kids. I'm grateful.
Beautiful.
I love it.
I'm thinking if I should answer this as a client or as a therapist, and I'm leaning more towards as a client. So a simple thing that my therapist said to me that completely changed my perspective, even though I'm saying this to clients all the time, is you don't have to be more and do more and have more to be good enough. You can just be yourself. And that sometimes is more than enough. And that self-compassionate lens to my own self was something that I was only able to crack after she said that. It was quite profound.
I was like, do we have the same therapist?
No, we don't. No, we don't.
I think we all have the same problem.
From a client lens, that is exactly the same feedback that my therapist gave me. And I was like, okay, 100%. From a therapist perspective, though, I remember a very powerful moment in session. We don't realize moments are powerful until the client themselves are like sitting in and they're like, whoa. Where, I had a client and they were in a deeply unhappy relationship situation and they felt really like tunnel vision, stuck in it. Like, this is my life. And I remember asking a question like, but what if you could have better than this? And they were like, oh my God, like that is an option. And they kept referencing, and I was like, that is just a simple question. But for them, they kept referencing that moment over and over again as they were trying to make these changes in their life. They're like, but what if I could have better? Like, this isn't it. And I was like, yeah, I said that. So, I don't know, it's really, as a therapist, very gratifying to see those moments happen in real time and have the privilege and the honor of experiencing that in session. And again, I just love this online community where they're all just posting what their therapist has said. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. And I think, it kind of connects to what we were speaking about in the last question or comment, which has to do with, is therapy just talking? And what is it that you're going to get out of therapy? And I think one of the biggest things that people can get out of therapy is that insight. And it's very difficult when you're in the thick of it sometimes to pick up and notice patterns and how maybe some historical or early experiences are showing up in certain ways in your life now. And like you were just saying, sometimes that simple connecting of the dots is invaluable, and it shifts that perspective and really empowers and gives clients the ability to make different choices and go in different directions. So you might not get like this foolproof checklist of things in therapy, but you do get things that on the surface might look very basic and very simple, but are completely meaningful and can be quite life-altering.
And I just want to add to what Judy was saying. I think it's always the simplest things that we say, like one or two or three words that really click with some clients, and we go like, wow, I can't believe I said that, and really hit it hit home. It happened to me last week, and I was like, wow, the client was really struck, and I wasn't sure that it was going to hit that hard, but it did. And it stays with them, I think. And that's what's therapeutic. That's what's really unique about the therapy experience. The way you show up and the way we listen, I think the way we actively listen, like with our whole bodies and our minds. And it's just, we're so in it with them. And we get emotional and we use our emotions to direct us. And then we say that sentence that really hits, and wow, it makes all the difference. And so that's the kind of the difference between a therapist and a friend, right?
Yes.
And AI.
And AI. And chat.
Gentle shade there.
As you ladies were talking, it also struck me as you were saying, Dahlia, it really is the simplest things, like such a clear image in my head where it was literally just saying, you've been through a lot. And that person just was like completely like, yeah, I have. And no one's really said that to me before. I have been through a lot. The smallest pieces of acknowledgement and validation can just completely change that person's experience.
Because they lead to other things, like awareness of other patterns, and you're able to like sit back with your therapist and look at your life from like a third point of view and just assess what's going on from a fresh perspective. And it's so liberating, I think, to finally see your life that way from a different perspective.
I have a question for our audience, and maybe it would be good if people could kind of comment or share their feedback. And this is inspired by my daughter. She has the privilege or misfortune of hearing these podcasts. And she mocks me like to my face. She will literally look at me and be like, She's like, it's really annoying that you don't stop doing that. And I'm like, so this is what I want to know for clients of therapists. Do you like it?
That's
when we nod and we, because I can't stop. But it's like my way of telling you I'm literally paying very close attention and I'm here. So ending our discussion.
That's a very good one, honestly.
With one for the audience.
We need to
Be
know.
the tiebreaker. Is the 10-year-old right or is it me? Thank you all for your time. This was a really fun, eye-opening conversation.
Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
Thank you.